Salut YouTube! Guess what? I am in freaking France! Yes, what you can see behind me right now is actually my Airbnb in Paris. I'm in Paris right this very moment, and I'm so excited to bring to you today's video because I wanted to chat about the culture shocks, the fresh culture shocks that have kind of hit me in the face ever since arriving here. So I have been here about 3 weeks now, and in those 3 weeks I have had many moments that are like, oh, that's right, or like, oh, I've never spoken about that on the Not Even French channel. So I'm definitely stoked to dive in. But first things first, just to share, I have rented this apartment on Rue Pierrefontaine. I used to live on Rue Pierrefontaine. I'm such a geek, so just completely nostalgic. I'm on exactly the same street next door right now to the old apartment that I used to live in. So this is going to be quite an experience. I'm very much looking forward to going out and exploring and seeing friends and just feeling like I'm back in my old neighborhood again. Now, speaking of culture shocks, a lot of people have been asking me how my French is going and if that was a massive shock for me or not, because as you know, I speak English with nails, and it's been 3 years that I've been in New Zealand, not being able to really speak French very often at all. And to be completely honest, I'm very lucky because I've been keeping up to date with my French through series, through Lingoda, and I've definitely felt like I'm completely fine. Of course, I might be looking for my vocabulary from time to time, but otherwise it's completely fine. And honestly, it feels so good being able to travel and go somewhere and live somewhere like we're here for 3 months without having to worry about the language side of things. So if you are on a language learning journey right now, or you want to be, I definitely have to speak to you about this. So Lingoda, which is my favorite online language school, who I use to learn French, but you can also learn, German, Spanish, English, and business English as well. They're doing this crazy thing called the Lingoda Sprint, and essentially it's this massive, intensive language learning challenge, and it lasts for 2 months. But the thing is, it's absolutely crazy. If you take 30 classes per month for 2 months, you can get up to 100% of your cash back when it comes to the Lingoda Sprint. Or if you take 15 classes per month for the 2 months, you can still get up to 50% cashback. And they do this to celebrate language learning, to celebrate becoming fluent in a language, to celebrate really committing to something and building a habit and getting it done so that you can stick to the thing and end up speaking a lot more fluently than you did just a few months ago. And why I loved working with Lingoda in particular is because it is 24/7 online, learn from anywhere at any time, and that really suited me as someone with a very, very hectic schedule. It's also founded in Germany, and not to stereotype, but it's super organized, structured, really well laid out, and it's just got that German stamp of quality, I find. The curriculum materials are really strong, it's super clear, and you're just connected with native professors from all around the world. It couldn't be easier. So if you're interested in boosting the heck out of your language learning capability, definitely check out the Lingoda Sprint. Click the link below in my description box. You have until August the 8th to sign up. So it's closing very, very soon. So make sure you don't miss out on your spots. And you can use the code ROSIEJULY, and that is going to give you 20 euros or 25 US dollars off your Sprint registration fee. But seriously though, can you imagine learning a language for 2 whole months and then being able to get your cash back? How crazy is that opportunity? I've done it, lots of my subscribers have done it, absolutely loved it. So again, if you're curious, check out the link to learn more, and don't forget to use my discount code so you have massive savings on that registration fee. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's jump into some of the main culture shocks that I have had since arriving back in France. Now, of course, because it's winter back in New Zealand, the first thing that we noticed upon arriving in France was the heat. We arrived in the canicule, the heat wave, and it has been intense. Been in Provence, been in Avignon, been in the south of France with 38, 39, 40 degree temperatures. It's so hot at night that it's hard to sleep. Now, of course, weather in and of itself isn't a culture shock, but it's the attitude around it. So French people, as you know, I've spoken about this on this channel before, but they're just allergic to air conditioning. They really do believe that it will make you fall very sick. And even the use of fans is a bit like, they've got this thing with air currents, courant d'air, and it really does make them think that they're going to fall sick. And I actually posted a story about this the other day saying, look, I bought a fan because I had such a hot night. At some point I was like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe in this thick air. Like, I was suffering so much, and I bought this fan, and I had so many of you messaging me saying, oh my gosh, my dad thinks that, French people, my dad thinks that if I open windows on 2 sides of the house, we're going to fall sick because it will create an air current. And so what I've noticed is that instead of, finding solutions, they really do either just suffer entirely, or they find these really random solutions just to do anything to avoid air conditioning or fans. So, for example, people have suggested to us that we do our washing, do our laundry, and we hang it up wet around the room to help us sleep better at nighttime, for example. I found this just over the top, to be completely honest, because honestly, I have worked in air conditioned environments, especially when I was working, almost every day for many, many years, and I wasn't sick every day. So I'm just not sure. I just can't remember a time that I ever fell sick because of air conditioning. And then I'm thinking to myself, do you know what else makes you sick? Heat stroke. Heat stroke and unnecessary suffering. It's not even just in individual homes, it's like in the office. You can just have enough air conditioning that you're just comfortable, but anything more than that, people will start complaining. And we even went to an exhibition in Palais de Pape. We went to a beautiful photography exhibition, but I could barely enjoy the photography because there were big lights beaming down, 38 degrees, no air conditioning, people walking around with fans, sweating, like hair wet at the back of their head, wet t-shirts, and we were all just like panting, no AC. What I will say though on the heat is, oh my gosh, I have missed having real seasons. It has been so delicious knowing that we can plan anything we want for the next 2 months and it won't rain. It just won't rain. We are going to have blue skies, sun every single day. There may be occasional mini storms. It might rain for a little bit overnight, but in general, it's going to be dry, it's going to be hot, it's going to be good weather every single day, and it makes planning so easy compared to New Zealand. Now, the next cultural shock is kind of linked to the heat, and that with the heat comes lots of flies, lots of wasps, and lots of mosquitoes. I've noticed a huge difference in these bugs and these insects flying around in France. And as the planet, I guess, continues to get warmer and warmer, it's probably going to become more and more of a thing. But I am getting eaten alive in the south of France with mosquitoes. And this culture shock came to me. I found this hilarious. My mother-in-law offered this clicker to me. I'm gonna put a video of me here clicking my legs. Basically, it delivers this like electric shock, and you're like bzz, 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 bzz. So you get bitten, it starts inflaming, it's super itchy, and you click it, and it kind of just like sends this little shock to it, and it's like it gets it, and it stops it itching. And I've actually found that they recover a lot quicker and I don't need to itch them when I use this little machine. I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know where it came from, but I'm telling you, it works. Now, next up, and surprise, it hasn't taken me long to start getting towards food and eating and that kind of thing. But something I've really noticed this time around is that people are so shocked that I don't eat fish. And I don't think it's about the fish itself. I don't eat fish or seafood. I mean, to be fair, if you caught a nice fresh piece of fish that day and we barbecued it with a little bit of lemon and salt and pepper, like of course it would be delicious and I'd eat it. But like anything that smells like it comes from the sea, it's not my thing. Now, French people can't seem to take that. So I have had honestly about 8 conversations since arriving in France. And people knew this about me before. It's not like a shock, it's just a thing. And they'll bring it up. They'll be like, mais Rosie, elle mange pas de poisson, hein? Like, and they'll be really like, she doesn't eat fish, huh? And they'll be like, ah bon? And we'll be talking about it and talking about, but why? But isn't there a lot of seafood in New Zealand? But how did it, all this kind of thing. And they're just so shocked that I don't eat an entire food group. And I think because it's the way French children are raised specifically, is that they very much have a wide and varied palate. They're not growing up having chicken nuggets and chips. They're having real meals. They're having a lot of strong flavors and sensations, strong cheeses and things like that. Lots of very specific tastes and flavors, I guess, that you often find in France. And I think it does develop a bit more of a wider palate. And so, they are taught to eat a variety of things, to try them again and again. And I think it would be very unusual for French people to not eat an entire food group. And I'm hypothesizing that that would be the reason why they just kept bringing it up over and over. People are so shocked. They ask me questions about it. Some other quirky little food culture shocks that I have seen. Firstly, my beau-père, my father-in-law, I saw him in the morning. He took like this soft bread called brioche. It's very soft, sort of almost soggy bread already. And he had a bowl in front of him, and it can be coffee, but in this case it was hot chocolate. And by the way, the hot chocolate's weird. It's like cocoa powder, like black cocoa powder that you would kind of bake with. It's not like necessarily like Nesquik or a sugared kind of hot chocolate powder like that. So cocoa powder and milk. and he was dunking this bread. It looked like a bun. He was dunking that in the liquid and then eating that. And that is something that you can find here. And again, that coffee or that hot chocolate is like served now in a bowl, like a breakfast bowl. And another thing is because he lives in the south of France, he's a doctor, but he can come home for lunch to like cook a meal, eat that cooked meal, and then he has la sieste, a nap in the afternoon as well. So he'll sit down, he'll eat, and he'll go and have a 20-30 minute nap as well. And so he'll be able to come home and integrate that into his day. I just find this so crazy because he does it both, yes, it's hot and it's summertime, but he does it both in summer and winter. I just can't imagine a doctor in New Zealand, or I imagine the States, I imagine the UK, having time for anything other than a 2-minute sandwich, if that, for lunch break. Like, just that, it's just such a representation of that respect to the lunch hour and that integration. And I'm also finding that we're spending so much time eating, like a huge amount of time eating in general, talking about what we're going to eat, preparing what we're going to eat, eating the thing that we said we were going to eat. You know, it's like that meal, it's like the aperitif, and then you have, you know, maybe an entree or a salads first, and then you have a bit of meat and potatoes or whatever it is, and then you have the cheese, and then you have something to finish off. It's just like, it really does go on and on. I spend a lot of hours here eating. I had also forgotten about this food quirk, but the thing with French people and peeling fruit, peeling vegetables, or washing them, like, they have to get that skin clean or off. And it's crazy because it's like, even the products that are like bio, which means organic, they still do it. It's just, I feel like it's more to it. They say, oh, there might be like, you know, pesticides on it, and it might not be super clean or whatever it is. In New Zealand, we're just taught to, like, you know, run the apple under the tap and then you eat it. You bite into that apple, you eat the skin. Here, you'll peel the apple, you peel the peach, you peel everything. You take the skin off. And we were always taught that the skin is where there's the most nutrients. So we tend to eat with the skin. Now they will peel it off. Now, if it's hard to peel off, so for example, you can't peel, like it's a berry or it's a cherry or something like that, they'll put a dipping bowl in the middle of the table, and everyone will use that to like wash their fruit and dip it in the water before they dare eating it. And to be honest, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm used to everything being very bio, very organic in New Zealand, or maybe it was just something we were never taught, but like, we'll just eat them. Well, you know, yes, we'll rinse strawberries under the tap for a second, but like, there's less of this hygiene around fruit. And just here in the food category as well, I need to mention Picard. Oh my gosh, I haven't spoken about Picard, but it is insane. It is this frozen food store, like a full-on grocery store, but just for frozen food. And I always had an association with frozen food being gross, being small, being like cheap ingredients, that kind of stuff. Picard does like French food, French cuisine, frozen. So you can find delicious food at Picard, frozen, ready to go, pre-prepared. And it is so good. You find Picard in the freezer of every French household, and they have like, you know, like white beans, like haricots with a sauce, or like lasagna, or like aubergine ratatouille. Like, it's just so good. I love Picard. All right, after jamming on food for a little bit, I'm going to go to an area that you probably knew I was going to go, which was around the service. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was always bad, but like every time I experience it again, it really, really shocks me. French people have a way of being, well, French people in service roles. So I'm talking about store assistants. I'm talking about people who are meant to help you, you know, set up your phone or set up your internet, or, you know, set up a bank account or whatever it is, or send a something at La Poste. Like, they've got this way of being so condescending and or making everything really hard. And what I've noticed is that the first response is always no. And like, they're cold up front. It's like they're ready to fight up front. And then if you stay respectful and you almost like pass that test, they kind of ease into it and you end up having a good experience. So for example, when we arrived in Marseille, surprise, surprise, Nils' suitcase had been lost in our journey, and we weren't given a little ticket, like a little number like you are sometimes in New Zealand. So that was a little bit complicated. So we went and told the assistant that our luggage hadn't arrived, and she was just like, you know, well, give me the number of your suitcase. And we were like, unfortunately, we weren't given a sticker or a number in New Zealand. And she was like, bon, ça va être compliqué, hein? Je sais pas. Like, she was really like, not sure I can help you. And she's like, oh, you know, and then like almost frustrated with us. And we're like, is there any way you could just, you know, use our booking reference to bring up our journey? Perhaps it's associated to that. And she's like, like, I mean, I can do it, but no promises are, like, I'm like, she was just like really resistant, and she's like, I don't think so, I don't think it's possible, like, la la la, and we were just there like, oh my gosh, how are we ever gonna get the suitcase back? And she like sits down at the computer and looks up the reference, and she's like, okay, the suitcase is in London still. Like, she could see all the information there, of course. But it's like, and then, we were like, okay, thank you so much. And like, sort of like groveling to her. And like, eventually, anyway, you end the conversation and you're like, merci beaucoup, bonne journée. Like, thank you so much. And it's like, you end on a high, but the initial contact is like a no. Or, for example, my mother-in-law, her car battery died, or at least she thought it did. So she went and got a new car battery. Then on the way home, she realized, oh my gosh, I think it's just a problem with my key. Long story short, it was the key, it wasn't the battery. So turned around, went to take the battery back to the store, unopened, untouched, just been like, just bought this, had a realization, can I please return it? And they're like, no, c'est pas possible, no, that doesn't work, like, no, we don't do that, like, la la la, like, and then you sort of discuss, and you're like, well, it's because I thought this and this and this, and like, it's like, no, you shouldn't do this, almost like you naughty child, you know the rules, like, normalement, on fait pas ça, like, it's just like, not usually, you wouldn't do that, and then it comes around, exceptionally for you, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to refund it for you. So it's like, there's like this big resistance up front, and you have to keep going and going and going, and it can often turn around to be, what I would call a normal experience, maybe you'd say a positive experience, but yeah, it's really interesting, this resistance up first. Like, they love to say no, they love to say it won't be possible, and then it can still work out in the end. The next culture shock I want to talk about are roadside signs. Now, I haven't necessarily spent a lot of time driving in France. I do a lot more in this trip because we're in the south, we're going all around, and I didn't have a car in Paris. But now I've been driving, and I just think the types of signs you find are so interesting compared to New Zealand. So in New Zealand, our signs are all around like, don't drive drunk, and don't speed. Those must be our societal issues. Whereas for them, it's about smoking. Stop throwing your smoke buds out the window. And it's like, they can be quite intense. Like, there's this one that's like, t'as pas honte, like, you're not ashamed of yourself. Like, throwing your butt out the window could burn our country, basically. So there's a lot around smoking, and then around pollution as well, I've really noticed this time. So like, big signs in the south being like, please drive 20 kilometers slower because the pollution is so high at the moment. Just a few little funny ones to finish off, because I know that I observe and notice these little quirks, and I wonder if you have too. So another thing is that some doors, like, this is the first time I've encountered it, but you have to hold the handle up to lock the door. And I didn't even know that door handles did that. Like, I've never ever had to put a door handle in that direction. And so you'd go to like lock the door, and I'd be like, it's not working. Like, I can't get the key to turn and stuff. And they're like, have you tried pulling it up? And it's like, what? And it's like, pull it all the way up, and then it locks around. So it's interesting for me, door handles only go down like that. And another thing is around grocery trolleys. I found this so funny because you put these almost, like, every French person would have like a coin, like a fake coin almost, that they can use. You're meant to put €1 in the trolley, or maybe like it's meant to be like $1 or something, and you put it in the trolley so that you can take the chain off the trolley and use it to go grocery shopping. And I just found that so funny because it's like, it's obviously a security measure to try to make it so that people don't steal trolleys. But if someone really wanted to steal a trolley, do you think a 50-cent coin is really going to put them off? Like, maybe, and obviously there's a reason, but I just like, wow, like that whole industry, like the work involved, the logistics, just to make it so that you can only use a trolley if you boop, put the coin in, take the chain off, and off you go. I was like, wow, they really must have had a trolley thieving issue in the country. Okay, friends, that was all that was on my list so far. I would love to see your reactions, your comments, your feedback, especially if you're French, especially if you're non-French as well, down below. I always love checking those out and having a wee giggle, hearing about what it's like where you're from, and if you notice those things too. I'm still in France for another few months, so if you have a video request for me, don't hesitate to let me know down below. And otherwise, I hope you're having a beautiful summer or winter wherever you are. And while you're waiting for next week's video on the Not Even French YouTube channel, get binging these ones. And otherwise, I will see you very soon in the next video. A bientôt!